Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Plus Size Woman's Advocate podcast. It is your host, Lizzie Morris. I'm so happy to have you here. I just want to say, if you are enjoying the show, please make sure you go give it a rating. You could do it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all the different ways that you can listen to this. Just let me know what you think of the show and how you are enjoying it. And I would love to share your reviews as we move forward with episodes. So let's get into today's topic. It is going to be about finding your own personal birth philosophy. Now, I want to give you some backstory before we get into the juicy context of what is a birth philosophy and what are the definitions or the views that some people may have. I remember being pregnant with my first, and this is where maybe some of you guys relate to this, and hopefully you start to get a view of where I think a lot of us come from. And you might be like, oh, that was totally me too. Maybe you've had kids, or maybe you're wanting kids and you resonate with this way of thinking. So when I was pregnant, it was COVID time and all the craziness, but I knew that I wanted not just like an unmedicated birth. I just wanted like as natural and chill of a birth as possible. It's just a foundational belief or a feeling I had. My mom, she did have all vaginal births. However, her experiences were quite insane, and that's for her to explain on another day. But she had me medicated. She had my two other siblings unmedicated, and she always told me that she healed so much faster. It was a better recovery. She, just all these different things. Having an unmedicated birth. And that was that was the reason I would tell people, but I always was drawn to it. I go back on my Facebook memories, and like in middle school, I'm sharing not birth videos, but like really crazy pregnancy fact videos and I just all kinds of different stuff. I can't even think of it all right now, but totally has always been a thing. I even, funny story, said that I wanted to be an OBGYN when I was a kid, and actually like a teenager. It wasn't like 5 years old type thing. It was like a 13, 14. Sorry, my dog started going kind of crazy, but yeah, like I was a teenager and I knew I wanted to help people, specifically women, I think. And, I knew, well, I didn't know anything, actually. I didn't know much about OBGYNs. I didn't know midwives were a thing. I didn't know about pretty much anything of anything, but probably that I had this foundational interest in birth and pregnancy, and I wanted to be around and help other women. And so there was this foundation there. I just never delved into it, mostly because I believed which I think another thing that most women commonly have this sense of, that either A, like my body is meant to do this, and like, yeah, duh, like I'm going to give birth in a couple months. It's not going to be a big deal. Or, there are a different set of women that may have more fears. And it really depends. It really does come down to the conditioning and the stories we were told, the things our parents told us about our births, or people's experiences around us kind of do shape and form how we view childbirth. But I feel like because my mom had a 10-pound baby, because she literally was hiking Stone Mountain at like 9 months pregnant and doing all the, I just saw such a badass pregnant woman and someone who had been through so much, that I just totally had a foundational belief in my body's ability to do all the things. And that can work for some people. Just going to the hospital and just having that belief and then things running smoothly. But for a majority of women, if you guys don't know, 1 in 3, actually it's becoming over 30%. It's closer to like 35% of births are via cesarean in the United States. So that is a really, really high number. And that's not for good reasoning. And we'll do another episode about that on another day. And then 1 in 4 to 1 in 3 women leave their births with significant trauma. And that's just who's reporting it, right? There's so much underreporting on women's mental health, on how we feel, because a lot of us get shunned and talked negatively about if we wanted an unmedicated birth, or if we ended with a C-section, or if we are upset about how things went because we have a healthy baby. And so there's a lot going on currently, not just in our maternity system, but in our society and the way that we view pregnant women and our rights around birth, that make it to where the more informed you are, the more research you do on your own outside of your doctor or your midwife, the more empowered you will feel. And the more of a birth philosophy that you have that feels right with the way or the experiences that you want to have. You want to be in alignment with what you desire, but if you don't know the ins and outs of it, if you don't do that proper research, and I don't even want to say proper because it's going to be different for everybody, but preparing ahead of time really can enhance and empower this birth philosophy. That way, if you come across something that is not actually truly evidence-based, or you're told, your baby's gonna die after 42 weeks. It's like, let's talk about the actual numbers, because I've done my research and I know this, right? And I know that messing with labor when everything is fine, or messing with pregnancy when everything is going fine, can increase my chances and risks of actually other things happening. So I feel comfortable doing what I'm doing, and you have this really solid foundational belief. Okay. So hopefully this is making sense. Hopefully all the pieces are coming together on why this is so important. Okay. So I want to actually give you an example. I'm going to give you 2 examples of how birth philosophy is viewed. One is from the midwifery model of care, and one is from the obstetric model of care. Okay. And these are just examples of what, major organizations say their philosophy is around birth. Okay. So this is from firstmemorymidwifery.com, and it says, birthing philosophy is a concept that emphasizes the active participation of both the mother and baby during labor. It is an act of trust and surrender, as well as an act of profound power. Birth is considered sacred, and every laboring mother has the right to have the spirituality of her birth respected and honored. Now, I will tell you, I pretty much align exactly with that. I think everyone might have their own different core feelings around it, but this is a pretty, a good general one for, I think, a lot of people, because, it's saying the mom and the baby are the center of the care. They're the center of the decision-making. And, every mother has the right to feeling that power and that, autonomy to her body. I vibe with that. So that is from, the midwifery model. Now let's read, let's read this one from, it's not like a site you would associate with, but it was Open Research. openresearch.europa. So it's actually from a Europe site. But the philosophy of birth can be approached from the perspective of the philosophy of medicine, or from the relatively recent field, keep that in mind, relatively recent field of the medical humanities. Obstetrics is seen as an empirical and symbolic space where contemporary thought reformulates the meanings and metaphors of gestation, labor, delivery, and birth. Now, I don't know about you. I don't like that one. And that's just how I feel. It's calling obstetrics a empirical and symbolic space. There's a power hierarchy. There's a lot of things. And so, I don't vibe with that one, but that is another example. So with that being said, let's talk about some questions that you can actually ask yourself to start formulating your own birth philosophy and finding the why. So anytime you ask yourself a question like, okay, the first example is, what are my core beliefs about childbirth? Write them down. I suggest you write it down just to really get your thoughts out. It helps your brain not to be so all over the place. But so example, my core beliefs about childbirth is that most of the time, nature will work its way out. Things will go the way it should if left undisturbed. And that is a core belief. I could always sit here and talk about, and then there's true emergencies, of course. But the core belief is that it is going to work out most of the time if we have the right space and we have the right support and we have the right sense of belief in ourselves. It's a really big thing. So now why is that my belief? Well, because I've done the research. Now, you might not have your why. You might be like, because that was me. So for example, when I was pregnant with my first, I remember talking to somebody that we were just talking about my birth plans. And I was like, yeah, well, like I want to go natural. And I remember her being like, well, why? And I remember saying, well, my mom, told me that you heal faster. And then she gave me her experience about having the epidural and how she healed amazing. And she had 3 kids. So like I knew her stories. And she's like, she wasn't telling me. I remember feeling like, so like, why are you trying? It felt like it was an attack in the moment. But looking back, I remember her saying something like, it's important to know why you are choosing to make the decisions you are. And I just felt like, well, I know why I'm making my decision. But no, I really didn't. Healing faster, it's not necessarily true that you will heal faster after an epidural. I mean, there's studies showing that improvements around not having an epidural and having a better recovery, but not always. It's really not always the truth. And that's not a foundational core belief, right? That like, oh, you heal faster without an epidural. Like, no. My core belief was that the experience of childbirth, now that I've done my research and I've experienced it and I have delved into it so much, I'm like, okay, I really believe that it's a transitional time for a mother. And I do feel for the mothers, I mourn with them as I didn't get to have the full experience with my first. I did feel like I was missing something. And as I've learned that, I'm probably not, there's another word for it, but basically, the period of, it's a rite of passage. Yeah, that's the word. Labor is a rite of passage, physiologically and socially. It is an experience you go through to get to motherhood. And of course, we're always going to say there's going to be times and places that can't fully happen. But for those who could experience it and have it taken away, when it absolutely could have happened, it's doing a huge disservice to the women in the world. So to me, I really realized like that rite of passage, having that experience and having it be supported and loved and feeling, not under pressure from the medical community or from family. It is an experience I feel like every woman deserves if she wants it. Every woman deserves to feel that because it can change your life. I remember I was reading something, I was listening to something from my friend Ashley Winning. You can check her on Instagram. Her name's Ashley L. Winning. And she was saying that, going through the she didn't even want to call it pain, but like the pain of labor and getting so uncomfortable, because it is uncomfortable. Oh my gosh, like don't let people tell you it's not uncomfortable. It could be the most uncomfortable situation. But I mean uncomfortable as in you are getting into a space in your body where you've never been before. Your uterus is contracting at a level it never has. It has a 8, 9, 10, 11 pound baby in there that it never has had to do before. And it's a whole new set of feelings that you go through. And just like someone who is running a marathon for the first time and wins, or somebody who studies for the SAT for like 2 years and aces it and gets into their dream college, any of these moments where they push themselves to uncomfortable levels and they surpassed it, you have a whole new sense of, I am capable of actually doing almost anything. I mean, am I going to go do everything? No. But do I know I can really do some bold stuff? Because whether labor is, natural and a process that women have been going through since the creation of time, all animals, mammals, all the things, it's normal, it's natural, it just happens every second. There's women giving birth right now, pushing their babies out, women just now going to labor, women's water's breaking as we're literally talking. But it is at the same time the most supernatural human experience I think any person or any person giving birth can truly experience. And so are you all feeling me now? I didn't even mean to go on this detour. But this is what I mean about having a powerful birth philosophy. As you can see, I think you guys kind of get a general picture of mine. I'm just super passionate about this. So I hope you enjoyed that. But building upon it is it can be very powerful. And obviously, if you're listening to this, you're really into the birthiness. Some women don't, and this is not a bad thing. Some women, don't put or don't feel the need to put a ton of effort into digging deep into it. And there really is, I used to want to be that person so bad because it just seems so much easier. But I'm speaking to my woo-woo girls, my girls that want to touch, their higher power, because you absolutely can do that during labor. And, while millions of people are doing it all the time, simultaneously, I'm telling you, it's a superhero moment. So let's move on, because I will talk about that forever. But I have a couple other questions that you could start thinking about. So for instance, if you're pregnant now, trying to conceive, or maybe you've already had children, and you don't want more children now, but you want a different birth experience next time, start envisioning your birth. Okay. So start off by thinking, where am I? Like when you see it in your mind, maybe it takes a while to formulate. That is totally okay. Don't force anything. Let it come naturally, But think, do you want to be at home? Do you want to be at the hospital? Okay. Who do you see there? Are there certain smells? Are there certain, you can have essential oils going, that kind of thing. And then ask yourself, why? And I don't mean overanalyzing, why do I have essential oils? But okay, I envision myself at the hospital, because see, this is for me. When I was pregnant with my first, I did envision myself at the hospital, even though I would watch home birth videos all the time. And it's because I just thought that's the thing I had to do. I just felt I couldn't home birth. Yeah, I believe I want to do that, but how could I do that? It just seemed so radical at the time. So if you're having one of those moments, that's a good reason to ask yourself why. Because if you're thinking that, that is totally no. But if you're thinking, okay, well, I want to explore the possibilities of what could go wrong, or I know the things that could go wrong, and I want to be able to have access to emergency medical equipment. And that might be something you explore deeper on to build that belief for your birth, to feel okay, this definitely is the safest place. Or you might come to find out after doing a little bit of research and deep diving that, oh, okay, I might have envisioned myself at the hospital at first, but now as I'm building my birth philosophy, as I'm building this understanding of how my body's working and how these hormones are influenced by the people around me, by the procedures that are being done on me and my child, I would feel much safer at home. And, that's where having informed decision-making can really actually shift that. But start out with that. Start out with your envisioning of your labor. And as you envision things, start to research it a little bit. Start to ask questions. Go look in some Facebook groups and just build a decision for yourself and take some time to evaluate. And what is your current understanding of how physiological birth works? Do you know the stages of labor? Do you know that women can actually dilate at any rate at any time? You can go from 1 centimeter to 10. A lot of times in the medical model, they'll say you need to dilate a centimeter an hour. There are women that dilate so fast that it's not even funny. The precipitous bursts, fast bursts are really actually a thing. My mom had one of those. And then there's women that it might take a few days to get through a labor and to fully dilate and to push and do all the things. Everyone's different in their variations of normal, right? And so if you don't know, just the basics of this is normal and this is, no one can tell me that me being 6 centimeters for 3 hours is a stall or failure to progress, because that is can be totally normal if everything's going okay, right? So what is your current understanding of how birth works? And if you don't feel like you have a solid understanding, what can you do to further empower yourself on the journey to understanding physiological birth? You can start to research. You can go on Instagram. You can buy a course. You can go to the library and check out some birth books. Abebooks.com is a really great place to get used books, and I buy all of my birth education books on there, and I probably have like 8 books, and I probably spent $30. So I definitely recommend them. And so that goes into the next thing is, have I done the research to prepare and advocate for the dream birth I desire? And don't beat yourself up if you feel like you haven't. Just, say like, yes, I have. I feel super empowered with my birth team. I feel super empowered with the decisions, my birth plan, the plan of actions that we're going to take if this happens, the things if this happens. I feel super, super confident about it. Or you're like, like you're like old Lizzie, right? You're the version of me that was like, yeah, like I just think I can do it. Like it'll all work out. That's a no. And that's when we say, okay, let's just dive our toes in a little bit. And so birth philosophy is really, you can be flexible. You can be, open-minded. It can change, and you can, learn from your experience and say, okay, well, maybe I felt like home was always the best place for me. I actually saw a girl on TikTok that she had, home births, I think like 3 home births. And for her last, she chose a hospital birth. And a lot of people in like the home birth community were like, girl, why would you do that? She's like, that's where I feel most safest this time. I have a feeling that, you follow your intuition, so having your core beliefs and all that is great for holding your ground when your intuition is telling you, hey, something's off. It's also great for when your intuition is telling you something's off and we need to take a different course of action, right? So, be open to listening to your higher power, connecting with spirit, following your gut. If it can change. It can always change. Or let's just say flexible. It could be flexible, because you could still have that core belief, but realize that like, hey, this situation is a little different, right? And obviously having people around you that feel similar about your birth philosophy, that have similar birth philosophies as you, is critical. If you have a birth philosophy such as the midwifery model of care, like, okay, this is a spiritual moment. This is like, I want to be the main decision maker. I want to be in control of my body. And you decide to go to a doctor that has like a 70% C-section rate, just know that is a total conflict of interest and someone who does not align with your birth values, unless they are taking super high risk patients that absolutely require C-sections. There's no need, even with high risk, there's no need to have a 70% C-section rate. And so that's just not going to be, the support system that is going to give you the best birth outcome. So just, build your birth philosophy, build your birth team, build your birth plans, build your birth spaces, really set this foundation for what it is that you dream and desire for, and what you see for yourself. And as you grow and build this, you might find that you feel super empowered around birth. And maybe at one point birth felt a little scary to you. You're like, well, like, I believe I can push my baby out, but you know what? Like, oh, that's going to be a little wild. Like, I don't really know. Like, as you educate and empower yourself, you might find like, oh my gosh, like, I'm so excited for birth. Like, yeah, I know it's going to be a lot, but like, oh my gosh, after hearing all these amazing experiences from women who, did all this prep work and felt so empowered and put themselves in places and situations that only made them feel better about what they were doing and the decisions they were making, and they set boundaries and they did all that, they nourished themselves and they're just doing amazing. Like, oh my gosh, I'm telling you, it can change your really life. Like, I believe, I posted a picture on Facebook that said peace on earth starts with birth. And I really believe that. I truly believe if we changed how we treat women in general, right? But if we change it from birth, we're setting up our children for an expectation of autonomy and love and compassion. And then mothers, the rate of PTSD and the rate of postpartum depression and postpartum anxiety and medical complications and all of that would just go down. Oh my gosh. I'm telling you. I'm telling you. So, all right, I'm going to let you guys go. If you if you enjoy this episode of the show, I would love if you tag me on Instagram, my social medias and everything, my website. All the things are always linked down below in the show notes. But if you need, my Instagram is at the Lizzie Morris, and Lizzie is with a Y, not an IE. And I'd love to know your birth philosophy, or how do you feel about birth? It doesn't have to be something super like intricate and like, oh, but like, how do you feel? And how does that align with the people that you're talking to and surrounding yourself with when it comes to birth conversations, or talking about birth plans and things like that? Do you feel you're supported? I'd love to know. Message me on social media, or you can always email me. Again, that'll be in the show notes. But I'm so grateful for you guys being here, and I will see you on next week's episode of the show. Bye.